Hello, and thank you for joining us for part 2 of a 3-part series where we're discussing risk management basics for natural gas. In part 1, we covered when it's appropriate or prudent to use index price, in other words, float with the market, and when it's appropriate or a good prudent risk management to be a fixed price buyer. And as what we concluded here, very simply, is that in a low price environment, being a fixed price buyer is good. In a high price environment, fixed price isn't such a good idea, and we probably want to be an index price buyer. One of the main tenets that we discussed is we never want to make a decision which way we think the market's going to go. We just want to base our decision on the magnitude of reward that we're getting versus the magnitude of risk. And we always want the magnitude of reward to be greater than the magnitude of risk. And the examples I gave in part 1, where the forward market or where I could get a fixed price was at $2 or $2.50, it's pretty obvious that a fixed price made good sense, right? Because the only thing we were leaving on the table is if the market would drop from there, and we all agreed that it probably couldn't drop too much more from there. It could drop, but probably not too much. Well, more often than not, the decision's not black and white. We kind of find ourselves in the middle spectrum. Suppose prices were at $4, $5, even $6, right? Do we want to lock in at that point? And obviously the logic is if the market drops, there's still a couple bucks that could drop. And I know it could go up more than a couple bucks, but boy, that's a tough decision. Do I bite off the fixed price or not? Is at that point in time that we should consider options. Before we go any further, I know that when people first hear options, frequently their response is, oh, we're not going to do that. That's high risk. Nah, couldn't be more opposite. The truth of the matter is that the inclusion of options in your purchasing portfolio is the best tool you can use in most situations to mitigate risk. We're going to focus on buying call options and selling puts. The definition of a call option, very simple, gives the buyer, you, the right, but not the obligation to take gas at a predetermined price or a ceiling. A put option gives the buyer the option, the right, but not the obligation to sell gas at a predetermined price. I think these will make more sense when we take a look in the graphical depiction. All right, for a call option, let's suppose that the forward market where we could buy a fixed price was $3. And we say to ourselves, boy, that's a good price, but I really think the market could drop a buck. I also know it could go up 5, 6, 7, 8 bucks. But I don't want to leave that buck on the table. At the same time, if this price rises over $5, that will crush our budget, possibly close the plant. So what can we do? Well, we can go out and we can buy a call option. In this example, we bought one at $5. That's known as the strike price or the ceiling price. And as what happens is, as the market goes along and stays below that strike price, we just simply play market. If it ever hits or rises above the strike price, we become a fixed price buyer at that point. If it then starts dropping and it falls below the strike price, we get to be an index buyer and enjoy the benefits of a falling market. What are the benefits of this? Well, it gives you the best of both worlds of being an index price buyer and a fixed price buyer of gas. In fact, if you had a crystal ball and you were able to see what the market was going to do, and it told you, your crystal ball, it said prices are going to rise, you'd clearly be a fixed price buyer. Conversely, if it said prices were going to fall, you would be an index price buyer. It's exactly what a call option allows you to do. It allows you to be a fixed price buyer in a rising market and an index buyer in a downward market. Now, do know that it costs something, right? You're buying something, you're buying this option. That's why I drew the blue line, which is your price, slightly above the market price. And the key variables to this, to the cost of an option, is the strike price, right? How tight to where I'm at a fixed price do I make it? And very logically, the lower I make my strike price, the greater the protection, if you will, is much more expensive than a strike price, let's say at $10. The other thing is the time to expiration. How long do I want this price protection for? If I just want it for a month, prices are real cheap. If I want it for 3 or 4 years, prices would be much more expensive. And then the third component is volatility, which you have no control of, and just a measurement of how volatile the market's been over the last 270 days. So let's add that to our toolbox. In a high-priced market, we want to be an index price buyer. Low-priced environment, fixed price. And if we're unsure where we're at in the spectrum of prices, we want to think about being a purchaser of call options. Now, let's talk about put options. Call options are a little bit more straightforward than put options. And so let's talk about the genesis of a put option. Why might we have put options? Well, if I'm a producer, for example, and there's some minimum price for which I must obtain in order to make my operation profitable or even break even, I might be willing to seek out an end user and say, hey, I'll give you money up front if you will agree to take my gas if the market ever crashes down to this level here, right? He's buying price protection, but on the low side. How does that look graphically? Well, let's take a look at our situation where the forward market was at $3. And we go ahead and say, if prices drop to $2.50, I'm good with $2.50. So we sell a put at $2.50. And as what this says is, we will pay market price or index unless or until the market drops below our strike price, at which point we would be a fixed price buyer at that strike price. And if the market starts going back up from that, we would get right on backboard being an index price buyer. But I want you to examine this and realize the win-win nature of selling a put option, right? When you commit to a put option of selling a put, you're actually hoping for the market to drop. The worst thing that can happen to you is that the market drops, right? And your option gets hit, but that's not really a bad thing. If we set our strike price at a point that makes great sense for our budget, right? So in this example, the bad thing is if the market drops, right? Bad thing, we want the market to drop. We pay market as it's dropping, but it dropped down to 225. Well, that's okay. We're stuck at 250, right? We gave up it dropping more, but you also got to remember we received the premium, right? So I look at put options more as a win-win situation, that you collect the premium, and even if it gets executed on you, it gets executed at a price that you already determined you can live with. So into our toolbox: index, fixed, purchase call options, sell put options. And if we move along, still keeping pace with calls and puts, there's what's called collars, and I'm sure you heard of these. And a collar is whereby you buy a call option, pay that premium, and at the same time you sell a put and receive the premium, so that it helps to mitigate or offset that premium paid for the call option. A collar can be costless or simply arranged to lessen the cost of the call option. And I will tell you, for all practical purposes, I wouldn't look at costless collars. They sound sexy, but in practicality, the price that you receive for a put is always going to be lesser than the amount that you receive for the call, that you pay for the call, just simply because the inherent value of puts are much higher than the value of a I said that backwards. The inherent value of a call is much more expensive than the inherent value of a put. Let's take a look at what happens with a collar. You basically set up a lower limit and an upper limit. So again, in this example, let's just say the price was at $3 in the forward market, and I want to buy that call option we were talking about in the call option example. So I get a strike price at $5. And let's just say that option costs 30 cents. And I want to help mitigate that. And so I say, all right, I don't think prices are going to drop to $2, but even if they do, I'd be more than happy taking gas at $2. Well then, sell the floor, sell the put option, in other words, at $2. And you receive that premium, which in this example clearly wouldn't offset the call option, but it would, or eliminate it, but it would go great long ways to offsetting or mitigating it. So in this example, so long as the natural gas prices stay between $2 and $5, you just pay market. If they would rise above $5, you become, your call's executed, you become a fixed price buyer. If they start dropping again, you drop right back with the market. And up until the time, if they drop below your put strike, and then you would be tapped out at the $2. So an excellent tool. Call options, I can't speak enough about them, and we'd want to just simply sell a put option at some price level that you're indifferent on whether you take gas at the price or not, just to offset the price of the call. So, into our toolbox, we have index, fixed, purchase call options, sell put options, or possibly implement a caller. I hope that you will join us for part 3, and we'll put all those tools into a portfolio based on where the current market's at. Remember, not which way we think the market's going to go, but where the current market's at. We'll arrange those tools to piece together a portfolio that will work for you. Thank you again for joining us.